Welcome to another episode of MRI the Network. I'm your host today, Bert Miller. So we're kind of turning the tables. We've been chuckling here a little bit to me, some of the behind the scenes that goes on here in Delray Beach at 160 Studios. My guest today is Joe Mullings. This should be fun. Now, the show I planned on having with Joe, we're going to save that one for another time. A lot more critical issues on the business front. Hopefully we'll have some nuggets that come out of this conversation, Joe, that people can take away with them. Anyhow, Joe is the new Chief Vision Officer with MRINetwork. And when we started talking, Joe, Chief Vision Officer. Mm-hmm. That's an interesting title. Let's talk about that and what that really means.
Yeah, so when you and I first started chatting about the role, a couple titles were thrown on the table. COO, right? CCO, Chief Commercialization Officer, Chief Operating Officer. And, you know, I have a long history with MR. And I thought that when you took ownership of the organization, you had a vision. You had a vision of what recruiting should look like, what talent access should look like. And one of the things that became very clear to me is our conversations, we shared the same vision. So sitting there one day, I think I proposed back to you. I'm like, Bert, what do you think about Chief Vision Officer? Because this journey needs to be about products and processes to bring to the talent access world to create a new category.
Right. Chief Vision Officer. So CVO, CCO, a lot of acronyms in the recruitment world. And then for those recruiters out there, you know what I'm talking about. So Chief Vision Officer, I think today, let's kind of break that down. I think there's a couple areas that would be really important for our viewers to hear about. One, the world of work and product development.
Yep.
So in terms of, let's start with the world of work first and kind of go through that description, and because it really brings the full circle of talent access. Let's start there and then follow our way into product development.
Sure. So the world of work was something that you know, we've started to coin and from some of our friends in the industry. And you know, where the world's moving today, technology is accelerating at such a rapid pace. And so if you put it on a grid, you would get sort of this going on right now, right? You'd have this acceleration where historically the solutions available in the workplace have been on a much flatter slope. They haven't changed much for the most part. We certainly had the gig economy show up, but to me the gig economy was a purposeful approach to, I want to have a couple gigs and I want to sort of supplement my income. But as we, you know, aside from COVID and the world we're moving in, all that did was accelerate. The world of work, I think that strategic companies are going to start to look at the world of work, whether you're a dry cleaner, mom and pop shop, or you're a $30 billion a year company. You're going to stop and pause and say, what are the problems we're trying to solve? And what are the resources available to us? And those resources are the workforce. And the other side of that, though, is from the individual side of the workforce, that specialization of skill that's going to be able to address this acceleration of technology and everything we're doing is going to be a high priority hire, but you don't need them maybe for a 40-hour week or a 50-hour week for their entire career. Maybe you need to dial them in, dial them out. So it's almost a talent on demand mindset as well.
Right. And so when you take a look at our workforce in general, and not only that, but the convergence between perm and interim,
sure,
contract for the world. I mean, certainly that is converging at a very fast rate, and now, you know, faster based on current events.
Yeah, you mentioned it a few times in our conversations, is if you look at the workforce pre-COVID, you had 160 million people. And out of that 160 million people, 60% of them roughly were full-time employees. And 35 to 40% were contract or interim or gig employees. That world of work from the full-time was dropping from a 4-year stay to a 3-year stay. And on the other side, it was the contract or interim roles were starting to increase in percentage of the full pool of employment, and the tenure was increasing. So you had the larger, certainly the larger sample where the world lives today, but dropping. And so if you want to address the world of work as a talent access organization, which is what MRI is, you need to provide solutions well before the market demands them.
Yeah, and so thinking about that, Joe, for offices that are in our network, outside of our network, for those figuring out, how do I get into this? What's the best way to approach this? I know a lot of times we've literally accidentally done contract roles for our clients based on maybe conversations they had, or they've just asked us if we can do it. So it's an oh, by the way type of approach versus an intentional methodology to go forward, focusing on strategically looking at the world of work.
Yeah, and so in my first 90 days in the role as CVO at MRINetwork, I had a chance to interview some phenomenal operators in the interim world, just tremendous operators, in a bunch of different categories too: healthcare, manufacturing, business aviation. And what became very clear was those that did it really well were committed to it, and those that didn't do it as well sort of dabbled in it. And it's an interesting proposition because generally in the employment world, you're doing one or the other. Typically, interim is speed to delivery of candidate, 2 or 3 days, where full-time usually is 3-4 weeks. And it had me pause and realize, Bert, that when I was interviewing people for perm roles in my firm, and I'd interview interim people, and I said, they're in the business, and we brought them in, their skills that required them to lock and load for 3 straight days, then if it was perm, they'd sort of trickle off and be like, I'm losing interest in this. And the perm people trying to do interim have to shift their mindset. And they have to set their business up slightly different, because you need quick access to people who are on the market, and you've got to get speed to interview, speed to hire there.
Yeah, and what I find interesting in that is, there's a couple components to that. One, the perm is such a high touch approach in the person you connect with. I think we lose sight because we think in the interim world that it's not quite as high touch. The cycle's not as long, but the connectivity has to be as caring and as important. And I think there's a misconception around that amongst recruiters.
Yeah, and as I look at the interim world and the perm world, and I look at the world of work differently than most people, I believe that if you're going to build an interim business, and this is what we're doing right now, is I want to identify the top 500 players in my category. And I want to become their consigliere. I want to become their talent agent. I want to give to them information around the industry, information around health insurance, information around tax advice, information around, you may or may not be a full cycle business person, but I'm going to provide you not only with the openings in the gig, in the field, but I'm going to also help you think through how are you managing your career from the business side. And then also, one of the things is people love their interim gigs, but they hate the work in between them. They're like, I'm not a marketer, I can't market myself. I don't know, I only found out a couple of gigs that are available, therefore I only have to take the one that's available, not what else is in the market, how do I figure that out? So, my advice is, if you're building an interim business, seriously consider, instead of going after the clients first, go after the top 500 players, sales, marketing, engineering, product development, whatever it is, accounting. Find them, providing sane value to them, let them know you're doing an interim business, and then have the patience over the next 3, 4, 5 months, then to go look for the business.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant because of the high touch with the candidates and the talent in the marketplace. And I think when we talk about the world of work, we've been using the term talent access. And so access to that talent comes in different forms. It can be in obviously a permanent role based on a solution that's necessary, or in this case, your approach to building the high touch relationships and delivering those services to the talent and providing clients access to that talent. That's awesome.
And high touch also means, look, at the end of the day, sometimes when people hear my strategy on talent access that is proven out over the years, that digital and marketing and media doesn't include the phone. It's quite the opposite. All it does is it puts the phone in a different position in the value chain. And so you talk about high touch, it's the same thing there, Bert. The touch can be empowered through custom web pages, secure web pages, back-end communication with the individual, text, in-mail, email, phone, of course, ongoing newsletters, and building that relationship. So that individual may not use you on their next gig, but those soldiers are your assets out in the marketplace to find out where there are gigs because of the law of reciprocation. As you give those individuals insane value with expecting nothing in return, imagine all the calls you're going to get in is, hey Joe, listen, I'm not taking it, but there's a design engineer role at ABC company down. I got a call on it. You may want to check that out. Right? So there's a lot of opportunities on that law of reciprocation when you start to give things without expectation of anything in return in the marketplace.
Yeah, and the benefits back to firm owners, if you think about what's going on, I mean, we're hearing some firms are down 40-some% on their perm business. Imagine if they had that interim solution for their clients to help their clients still get work done. We see it in our numbers. I mean, our interim business is down just very, very little since COVID started. And that's due to the fact that our owners, clients still need to get work done. And so that talent, having access to that talent is important. All right, the last thing I'll leave, and then we'll go into product development, is you mentioned earlier about the oh, by the way, as well for recruiters in that mindset. We have to train and help people understand the mindset. And here's the problem I always saw in my office once in a while was this. Yes, I'm going to go down that road, have that contract role, and then all of a sudden the attention gets pulled away because I can write this job order to get a $40,000 fee. I instantaneously, it's like a hit. I get that hit. This is a mindset where you have to really be thinking about the total circle of solution for your clients, and not get drunk on the $30,000, $40,000 hit.
Yeah, it's just making a decision on how you're going to design your office, right? So the one thing I always make sure that I focus on whenever I give guidance in developing an office is PDA, per desk average. Right. What is your PDA? And as we look at the world of work moving forward from a talent access firm, is you're going to have PDA, per desk average, which drives profitability, which gives you more dry powder to build out your firm, or puts more money into your bank account for your kids' college, or allows you to buy that boat you want to buy, right? So you're going to figure one or all three of those. But the PDA, when you start to work interim in, gives you that recurring revenue every month that is really absent of the perm business. Now, granted, it's like making that deposit in your 401k every single month. You turn around at the end of 7 years and you got 150 grand sitting in there and you didn't realize it. So it's a little bit like that analogy is, I don't think, Bert, and this is a little provocative, of course, I don't think you can run a one-desk office and do both. There are probably some insane headhunting athletes who can do it, but on the most part, I would say that you've got to make a conscious decision to develop that business, develop that perm business, develop that interim business, and they need to be two different workflows. You can be a rainmaker in both. But it's really hard to drive, to your point, fulfillment in both.
Yeah, the fulfillment piece is difficult. Okay, so PDA, per desk average, I think that's a great segue into product development. And I think we're having conversations here where training and ongoing communication with folks is going to be necessary in terms of helping them understand what you guys are talking about talent access, now you're talking about product development, world of work. What does all that mean? Okay, it sounds really sexy and cool on camera, but how do I take that and do that in my office? And so the PDA is a great segue. Let's talk about product development, why you believe that MRINetwork is really a product development company for our network and others.
So when I think about product development, when we think about the world of work, not much has changed in the talent access world. Anybody who works a desk knows that. How we deal with HR, how we interact with HR, how we interact with the candidate pool, how we interact potentially with how we build our brands. I mean, most people aren't even building brands and reputation. So product development also includes process development. So the biggest product that's hit the search world has been external to the search world, has been LinkedIn. And it doesn't take much to realize that that has created a tremendous benefit to individuals, companies, and headhunters. All three win on that. It's beautiful. With that, though, most search firms have not thought about their own companies as product development companies. They just thought about themselves as providing a service, as setting up interviews and closing deals. When you look at the world of work, you should be looking at the ways that you could add value to the candidate's journey and to the company's journey. And sometimes that's personalized web pages for the candidate. Sometimes that's dashboards for your client. Sometimes that is a process and a marketing tool that is used to push your brand or your firm's expertise out there. Those are all products, Bert. Historically, search, the only products that got introduced was the fax machine was a product, but it didn't change the workflow. It just sped it up. The introduction of email didn't really change the workflow, just sped it up. I think we're at a point right now that world of work is perm and interim. I think we're starting to see virtual engagement a lot more as we're going through. And so if you're a search firm or an organization like MRI and you're not developing products to keep up with the acceleration that's going to be required in the rest of the world, for gosh sakes, even now, the way you buy groceries has changed, right? The way that you have your car bought, delivered to your house without even seeing it, has changed. All those organizations have not changed their what they do. They sell cars and they sell groceries. But how they do it has been all new products. The search business, talent access business, needs to do the same. What we do has not changed. What we do is deliver talent. Now, we deliver talent. To me, companies now are talent that we're delivering to the individuals, and still individuals to the company. But how we do it revolves around product development.
And why do you think what we're giving out and we communicate to the marketplace, why are we best prepared to do that?
Gosh, you know, that's a multifactorial answer. First of all, I don't think any organization trains search consultants better than MRI. You know, that was one of the things I evaluated when you and I started talking last October about this, you know, this relationship. Is I went to the United meeting and I stood in front of those 400 people, and you can feel the energy coming out of the room, like the commitment, not just to make a lot of money, but the commitment to the mission on every single person sitting out there, whether we were, you know, a 35, 40-year vet like a Todd Govig, or, you know, Sally Smith, who started the week before. So first of all, the energy out of there. I'm not sure MRI owners are in the business for money. I think MRI business owners are there for the community, for the difference they make legitimately in people's lives, and they just happen to cash a check at the end of that process. So that positions us to understand that we're on a mission. And when you're looking to create a new category, not just disrupt an industry, but when you're trying to create and committed to creating a new category, if you're not mission driven and you're mercenary driven, you're going to fall short because you're going to give up, because it's going to be so hard in what this network is trying to do and what we're going to execute on. This is going to be one of the hardest things this organization has ever seen, but it's worth it. And because we're mission driven more than any others out there, we will get that new category out. And it'll come at the expense of us wanting to hold on to what got us here. And it's that very thing that could prohibit us from moving into that new category. We're not giving it up per se in what we're doing. We're giving up how we did it. Mm-hmm. And this new category is going to be eye-opening and be driven by product development, but taking the what and overlaying the new product development.
Yeah, that's a great explanation, Joe. And you think about it, it's not unique to us. It's not unique to us. I hear you say all the time, I think you might even said at United, when you want to grow your business, you just think that means adding 5, 6, 7 new AEs. Mm-hmm. Right? And I think you use just get a bigger hammer to hit the nail.
Right.
And so that is not unique to us. That happens across many industries. I can go to consumer industries, and all they do is put more man hours, money, everything they're doing to gain a fraction of market share. A fraction of market share. And that lift to get that additional market share is so great that when you get it, you're worn out. Versus what you just said, dislocating and creating a new category. The biggest growth companies, it's new products, breaking the rules, right? Broadening the stakeholders in general, and then what you just said, people being mission driven.
Yeah, that mission driven is critical, and it's tough because sometimes when we're introducing these new products, it makes people uncomfortable. It makes people uncomfortable because it's different than the way they did things. And you know, we tend to see the world through the lens that we've wanted to craft. And it's not necessarily the best way or the truth or the way that we should be driving the organization. It's just the way we view it. And it requires us to explain to people, I don't want to change what you're doing. I just want to change and have you throw out there how you do it. Look, you can continue to do this business the way that we are doing it today, and you will be fine. You will absolutely be fine. I just believe that people want to find a way to affect bigger change, grander change, by amplifying the work they're doing already. You mentioned earlier, if I want to take your office from $1 million a year to $1.5 million, I don't have to increase your head count by 50%. I have to increase your efficiencies. I have to give you better products. I have to give you better tools and processes. And then what I've got to do is take my time, not just give them to you, but now show you how to use those in order to amplify and scale your efforts. That's really the product development mission that MRI has.
And that's PDA. That's just increasing PDA.
That's PDA.
And that can be one-man shop to a one-person shop to 80.
That's exactly right, is we're increasing efficiencies. You know, again, everybody wants to look at Bezos and look at Amazon. I mean, that's a very gross, beautiful example, is he didn't change what you did. You're still buying stuff. What he did is he changed how you did it, and he increased the efficiencies, reduced the friction, and got it down to a one-stop touch button and presented to you what you wanted to see, and then let you make the decision in as frictionless an environment as possible. And we need to do that when we're talking about our clients. That's where the dashboards come in. That's where the Pulse platform comes in. That's where the training program that MRI is sort of not reimagining, but changing how it's delivered to you, because the content is amazing. So when we're able to take, Bert, a 5-year person, and that's about the sweet spot historically that people really start to become successful in this business. Like, you know, if you took that, and I can take that down to 18 months because of tools, efficiencies, new processes, and a new way to look at the business, that makes everybody's office more profitable.
It's interesting you brought up Bezos. You know, he spoke at an MRI meeting at one point. He was 2 years in, so selling books. I think his second year he did like $75 million in his company, and selling books online. Now, I would say he created new products. He broke some rules. He's definitely went to a broader set of stakeholders, and I don't think anybody can question his mission.
Yeah, and you know, he didn't change what he did. He just changed how he did it.
Exactly.
And that became a reality because technology permitted it. Look, Amazon wouldn't exist today if it weren't for the internet. Amazon wouldn't exist today if there weren't online ways to, you know, the fintech, the financial way to transact. Amazon wouldn't exist today if the cybersecurity wasn't there. Amazon wouldn't exist today if the big box companies hadn't done such a terrible job of fulfilling the customer's needs. And that is the exact environment we're sitting in today. We're sitting in an environment that could be equated to the big box mentality of search. And what Bezos did with Amazon is he he put himself where the customer wanted them to be. He then was courageous enough to create an ecosystem that would incorporate a ton of trust for you to put your credit card in there, a ton of trust in you to tell them about you, and then a ton of trust earned after providing unbelievable service and experience that would have to have you choose between doing it the old way or the new way. That's where we sit today.
And sometimes he put us where we wanted to be, but we didn't know we wanted to be there.
That's right.
And that's the interesting piece.
That's right.
So bringing it back to what we do, if we look at our industry in general, we can go across all independent firms, we can go across various organizations, networks across the world. How many are truly into product development?
Oh, you know, because of my role right now, when I chat with new people who are, you know, saying, hey, Joe, hey, Bert, I think I want to come over to the MRI family, but I'm looking at a couple other firms. I'm like, listen, you need to do your diligence. It's incumbent because you're only going to make this decision once. It's a marriage. And so I said, but do yourself a favor. As you go through the process, I want one of the top 2 questions that you ask is, tell me about your product development pipeline, and then just listen on the phone or look in their eyes if it's on a Zoom call, and watch them stumble. They might index towards their great training program online. That's not product development. That's delivery of a training program online to you. I'm not saying it's better or worse, but that's all it is. What are they doing in regards to media development for you? What are they doing in regards to educating a market via Pulse for you? What are they doing in regards to showing you how to develop your own internal media team or outsource it and co-source it with the MRINetwork family? Show me about the BCC media arm. Where can I call up and get expertise within my family, not outside, within my family, with evidence-based, the premier online headhunter search firm has built that brand. Tell me about the studios that you have that you can put content out or I can fly in and use. Those are all product development. If all you're doing is signing up for maybe some really good group purchasing and what appears to be a training program, you're going to burn through that pretty quickly.
Or Marcom. Yeah, we have Marcom.
We have Marcom. But it's a mindset, Bert. See,
where I was going with that, though, is
it's a mindset.
Yeah, others have Marcom, but Marcom, in those eyes, are different than true marketing communications.
Yes.
I think, yeah.
Yes, but product development is a mindset. And so when you ask that question of a firm, it tells you what the leadership is thinking of, not for what search is today, but what is search 2 years from now? What is search 5 years from now? What is talent access? What is the world of work? What does Whole Foods, Nike, Google, Amazon, what does their world of work look like as they interview people? And is your search firm or the organization you're aligned with creating products to actually answer that before the question is legitimately asked in the market? That's what we're doing.
No question, no question. So before we wrap this up, anything we didn't talk about you want to share with us?
Oh, gosh.
And I could talk all day with you, as you know.
Yeah, I would say the biggest challenge that any owner is going to have right now, whether it's a $500,000 a year office or a $15, $20 million a year office, is giving up control to get control as we move into a product, process, dense world. And listen long enough before you judge. Don't be married to what got you here, because realistically it very well may be the thing that puts you out of business. Because what we protect, we make weak. And so I would say you should challenge everything that we do on product development. You should every single move we make, but don't challenge it with one question. Challenge it with a body of work and really listen to what we're trying to get done. Then step away and make a decision. So as we release products to the network, as we put training behind those products to the network, I need to have you challenge them, explain why they won't work, and then be able to listen to why they probably will, and then make your final adoption and utilization decision. Or that one may not be for me, but what else you got?
That's awesome, man. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Joe Mullings, MRINetwork's Chief Vision Officer. We will do this again. I have various other topics I want to talk to this young man about. So this is Bert Miller, MRI the Network. Thanks for joining us.